Hi guys, so today we are going to work on dremeling out a section of this vintage wood block that makes it a little bit harder to use. It's just a little specific. So we're gonna take the text that's in the center of the state of Texas off of the block. So the tool that I'm gonna use is a Dremel 4000. I have not tested it, so I don't know if I have the right drill bit on, but the drill bit that I'm using is a very soft sander. So we're just gonna give it a shot, and I may need to change the drill bit, but we're gonna test this one first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold the block firmly in my left hand, and I'm just gonna start the drill bit. It's gonna be very noisy. Just so that you know, up here I am wearing some protective eyewear because you don't want these little bits of metal to go flying anywhere. So without further ado. So I'm just going to stop it for a second and check the progress. You don't need it to be all the way down, but you do obviously need it to be low enough that when you print, you won't be able to see the impression. So it looks like I may need to actually pause it and put on a slightly stronger drill bit. So hang tight. Okay, so we're back. I put on a little bit stronger of a drill bit. You can see this one's slightly different in shape. And that's okay, it's not a big deal. I can still get into all of these little grooves and spaces. The reason that I went with a slightly stronger drill bit is that I don't want to have to do this for a very long time because that could increase the chances of error. So I want to try and get this done as quickly as I can while sanding down a nice portion of that text that I no longer want. So we're gonna get going. Okay, so I just want to point out and show you guys what this is looking like before I head to the edges. So the text that is worn down is now, very bright silver, so you can see the portions that have been removed. I am getting over into these fine corners where I have little sections of the piece that I want to retain. So what I'm going to do is just kind of clean it off real quick to make sure I can see. And then I'm gonna start on this detail work. You do wanna be really careful as you get into corners that you don't lose any of the piece that you want to retain. Okay, and with that, we are done. And now what I have is a block that has a much wider application. I can use it on a card. I can use it in other circumstances without having to worry about the text that previously limited its application. So this is a really easy way to modify a block. Typically, I would not recommend modifying a block unless you have some kind of text that really limits its application or use. But ultimately, it's your block. And so if something like this will make it a little bit easier for you to use or have a wider application, go for it. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is actually test the block to make sure that we've gotten all the text out of the state of Texas that we wanted to remove. So what I've done is I've set this up on my little 3x5 Kelsey. This is a platen press. I have the block in the chase, so it's already set up. I went ahead and used the chase screws instead of coins because this is a rather large block for this tiny press, but it's the easiest one for me to test it on. And since I'm testing, I have not done any ink, and I'm not really gonna worry about registration. I'm just gonna handhold so that I can see whether that Texas was smoothed off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this print, pop down, and then I'm going to look in the state of Texas. You can see the little impression there, and I do not see any of that remaining text. So it looks like we've done a good job, and we are finished with this project. If you do decide to remove text from, or any other item from a block, I think the key things to keep in mind is just make sure you have a firm grip on your block so that it doesn't slide around. Use probably the strongest possible sanding bit that you can use without doing significant damage. Again, in my opinion, that just limits the time that you have to do with a tool. And so it kind of limits error in that way because you're using less force and pressure and getting the job done just a little bit more quickly. Make sure that you use some protective eyewear because there are little fragments that fly around. And then finally, make sure that you test your block before you wrap up. Thank you guys for watching.